How's everybody doing this morning? Welcome. Good morning. Good morning to everybody. Welcome. And thank you all for coming out. Want to spend the first few minutes here just to kind of give you a recap thought process coming out of the trade deadline. I want to send a special thank you to a few people. First of all, to my front office. I've been in the league 25 years now, and there is a lot of work and preparation that goes into getting ready for that time of year being trade deadline. So it's a lot of hours, it's a lot of phone calls, and my group was exceptional. I felt very well prepared, very well informed. So I want to publicly say thank you to all of them first and foremost. Also want to say a thanks to Dennis Schroeder, Keon Ellis, and Dario Saric for the professionalism and the buy-in and the hard work that they put in during their time here with the Sacramento Kings. It is much appreciated, and I wish them all the very best in furthering their careers where they landed after this trade. As you know, the trade deadline is just the first opportunity, really, to make an adjustment with the roster. And as I said to all of you here in the media and the Sacramento King community at large and fan base, is that we're going to take our time and we're going to use this year to evaluate this roster. And that's what we did. In the first 50 games of this year, we've had an opportunity to make that evaluation. And so we decided to make a little tweak with the roster after watching that. I felt like we were smallish. We had a lot of guards. We were very, heavy at the guards. We didn't have a point guard coming into the season, as I made, as you all know. There was no point guard here. And so that was the reasoning behind going after a Dennis Schroeder. And so for a variety of reasons, as things unfolded, things didn't work as well as we would have liked them to work, just quite frankly. And it's not reflective just on Dennis Schroeder, it's on the collective. We endured, and it's not an excuse, but it's a fact, a lot of injuries. I think we're the only team in the league this year that never started the projected starting five going into the season. For example, Keegan Murray's missed 33 games this year out of the 50. Domantas Sabonis has missed 33 games, and then Dennis missed 7 himself. So that makes it very difficult to create any kind of continuity amongst your basketball team, because it takes time to create the necessary cohesion that can be very helpful when it comes to winning basketball games. So that was, observe that. And so you've heard me also talk about needing to get bigger size, more length, versatility, athleticism, reasoning behind trading for a guy like DeAndre Hunter. And contrary to some public sentiment, DeAndre is a very proven two-way player in this league, and he's not an old player. He's just 28 years old. He allows us to defend at a high level, I believe. He's exhibited that throughout his career. He's been a very good shooter from the perimeter. I know his numbers were a little down this current season coming out of Cleveland, but there's enough historical data and historical evaluation that leads me to believe that he can be helpful to us. And I think another thing that's not talked about much, he's on a very short contract too. He becomes an expiring contract next year. So when making this move, still gives us flexibility. One of the things that you evaluate when you come into a new job is kind of where the roster is at. And, and so we knew years 1 and 2 was going to be difficult in terms of having much financial flexibility. 27, 28, as currently constructed, that's going to be the first opportunity we will have a little window to start having a little more flexibility and making some more moves to continue to improve the roster. I've talked about one of the other byproducts of the deal, which was important to us as well too. We were able, in sending out 3 players, it opened up a roster spot for us to elevate and sign to a full-time NBA contract a guy like Dylan Cardwell, who has more than earned it and who's quickly becoming a fan favorite here. And he does things that are very important for any successful basketball team. He is an energetic defender. He's able to protect the rim. He's a switchable center, big man. He can guard guys away from the basket as well. He is an excellent rebounder, one of the top rebounders for the minutes he's played as a rookie already. And we just continue to see a very great trajectory for him. So it was important that we be able to convert him so he can finish the remainder of the season with us and not be capped at 50 games as a two-way player. So we're excited about that. Again, we're at the extreme early stages of laying the foundation here. And you've heard the phrase from me, prudent and patient. That's how it has to be if you want to create a foundation of sustainable winning, like what we want to do. So we're not going to do anything out of panic. There's a lot of outside noise that comes throughout the year, and especially during trade deadline. But I've been around long enough. I'm an experienced enough person in this position that I'm not going to allow that to sway any of our decision makings, do anything out of panic, and make any what I would call bad decisions. So, so we're happy about that. We're happy, about where we are coming out of the deadline. Looking forward to watching, DeAndre throughout the remainder of this year, how he fits in with the group. We're looking forward to seeing how young players continue to grow from this point on, and so that hopefully we can gain some momentum coming out of this season as we prepare for next season. So we're just getting started, and then I think you'll see, the draft is coming up, another opportunity. Free agency is coming up, another opportunity to tweak and improve the roster. But we're still going to do it with the same mindset of being very smart, prudent, and not being impatient. So it takes, like the old saying, Rome was not built in a day. And so I have the patience necessary to do that needs to be done to ultimately get this franchise where all of you would like to see it. And I know the Sacramento fan base at large has been starving for that. And we're going to get there. And so I'm more confident than ever that we will. The job is never done. And with all that being said, I will open it up for questions.
Scott, thank you for taking this opportunity to speak with us, and doing it immediately. A few weeks ago, you had spoke to on a radio show to Kevin Gleason and Kayla Anderson about trades, and I think one of the things that struck me was you're not going to make a move just to make a move, but what was coming back, does it math? Were those some of the, the things that you were running into, things, and maybe some things didn't pan out, maybe things did work out, but maybe it didn't work out with the other team?
Great question, and gives me an opportunity to give all of you a kind of insight into the thing. I think anytime you go into talking about trading a particular player, you try to set a threshold, what you want. Now, obviously, you got to find a trade partner out here or partners to make it happen. And so whether that threshold is a certain amount of draft capital, if you can get it, if you can't get that, okay, then in our case here, can you pivot to get a player that you want that makes sense, that won't impede your long-term vision, especially where we're at in the building stages. So, every trade, and that's where, again, I want to thank my front office again. We do a lot of work in planning. Every deal that we talk about, then we immediately look at, okay, what's the ramifications to the cap, short term, long term, because that's important in team building. So I enjoy that part of the job. And so hopefully that answers your question. Is anything else further?
the other teams? Speaking, dealing with them, was that kind of the same feeling that you was getting from them? Same way you feel about it?
Oh yeah, no. Look, every operation is a little different. Again, I've been around long enough. There's some teams and executives that I've worked closer with over the years than others. So the ones that I know well, it's easy to at least have conversations, direct conversations where either you can quickly establish is there something there that can potentially happen or something not there. Now, there's other conversations that you may have. There's a lot of, and there's internal noise too. When I mean internal noise, that's within the NBA. Sometimes you get people that are just kind of probing just to kind of find out what's going on and what's out there, and they may not be as at the point of, as serious of consummating the deals maybe you are. And so you run into that a little bit. But again, my experience in being around, knowing the majority of these guys in the front offices, you kind of know each organization has its own identity, if you will, or own style in terms of how they like to negotiate in this type of, during the trade deadline, in this type of environment.
Scott, wondering, you've been through this quite a few times outside of Sacramento, but you had a little taste of this a few years ago. How different was it to go through it and kind of see the reaction of Sacramento fans who are so incredibly passionate, who are just praying that something will turn around here, and kind of seeing that play out in real time?
You get so caught up into what I'm doing day to day on the phones, I probably didn't get a chance to listen to as much of the noise. I mean, you're very aware of all of the fan reactions and things. I may get a snippet here or there. It's important for me just to keep my head down and do what I feel is best for the organization. But that's why it's important for me to come out here today and kind of share my thought process, so hopefully that the fan base understands and has confidence in what we're thinking and doing, because I know we do. And I've been a part of organizations that have been successful when you attack it that way. But it's exciting, though, to know that you have a fan base that's very invested and emotional in it. And so that's an exciting thing. And so I enjoy that part about it. I embrace it. But, I would always, push pause for whether it's fan base or, all of us internally within the Kings organization. We're never going to make moves just for the sake of making moves and be in a 24-hour news cycle. Oh, we made 4 trades. Well, if that doesn't make sense to the overall vision and the direction we want to go, we just were part of a news cycle for 24 hours, and then we have less direction coming out of that. We still have clear direction of which way we want to go.
Hey, Scott.
Yes.
Couple of questions for you. So the first one is, obviously, the Keon Ellis saga in Sacramento is over. Can you maybe shed a little bit of light on why he wasn't able to extend here, or why a deal was never able to get done with him? Obviously, moved in the Dennis deal, but maybe just shed a little bit of light on that. Obviously, he was a fan favorite.
Yeah, no. First of all, I enjoyed every minute working with Keon Ellis. True class young man first, and very solid basketball player. As I alluded to earlier, we had a lot of guards on the team this year, and one thing that played out, obviously, there was inconsistent minutes for him, and so he never, I felt this year, and I'm sure he would concur, was able to get a strong foothold in a role here. And so you make a decision that way. So, a lot of times, and I've said here a lot of times, you're going to lose solid players in the process when making deals. And so, again, we needed to get bigger. We needed to get, some more size and length here. That's what DeAndre brings. Keon is going to, have a good market, I'm sure, this off season. And so you weigh, what that number may be. And if we come back with pretty much the same roster, is he playing? What's his playing look like for us here? And so that's what I knew we needed. And we made the pivot to say, okay, let's get a little bigger, a little longer, more athletic, and it's still on a short-term deal in bringing DeAndre here. So we'll see how DeAndre fares and how he fits in here, and we'll make that evaluation the next season. It's because that move, again, whoever we draft, hopefully we're in position to get a high draft pick, and so it was important for me to have a roster that's going to be a little more balanced. Okay, what does DeAndre look like alongside a guy like Keegan Murray who hasn't played? Because if you look at a lot of the teams now, especially your better teams, they're longer, they're more athletic, they got more two-way players on the court. We still need to add more. We just said 2. Keegan Murray was the only one we had until we made this trade.
And then just looking at the league kind of as a whole and building the sustainable winner that you guys have talked about, it seems that is best done through the draft, especially recently. How important is draft capital in your grand scheme here in Sacramento, and is that kind of a primary focus in the next year or two?
Draft capital is extremely important. Obviously, this is a big draft coming up for us. Obviously, the season hasn't gone the way we wanted to in terms of wins and losses, but maybe the silver lining becomes we get a high enough pick where you can get a difference maker when the draft comes. But it's very important. So that's why, in terms of being patient and prudent, those first-round picks are huge pieces in terms of being able to build out. So one of the things that we have to be disciplined and resistant to, look, we have some higher salaries on our roster. Well, most teams are going to ask you for a first-round pick or 2 to take on money. Well, if you do that, then how do you build? If you give away that draft capital. So we have to remain disciplined in that manner to make sure that we're able to draft. And if we can add some more picks, that would be great too. But we're not. We haven't been able to do that yet. Hopefully, we can do that along the way too as we continue to build.
Hey, Scott, back here.
Yeah.
Got 2 for you. How are you? First off, when you signed Dennis at the beginning of the season, you were up there and said basically that he's a guy that we want to model after. He's the type of person we want to bring into Sacramento. And now, a couple months later, here we are.
Yep.
What changed?
Yeah. No, first of all, and he's competitive, he's tough, he was all those things. I think, like you said, as the season unfolded, and you just see the fit didn't work. And so that happens sometimes, So it has nothing to do. He didn't change as a person at all. Like I said, he did what he was capable of doing. Unfortunately for him and us, we had a lot of our guys that we thought he was going to play with missed a lot of time too. So then you pivot, and I think that's one of the big things, most important things in this position, is being able to recognize and the ability to pivot off things you're doing. And I thought we pivoted fairly painlessly in doing that, and so we move forward.
Second one for you is, what's the future of Domantas Sabonis with the organization?
Well, he's here. He's a Sacramento King right now, so that's his future. We expect. We haven't been able to really watch him much this year. Like as I mentioned, he's played 33 games. He's missed 33 games, so it's about 17, 18 games this year that he's been able to play. So looking forward to hopefully having him out there enough the remaining part of the season to see how he fits. I had a great deal of respect for him coming in. That has not changed from my perspective. I've enjoyed getting to know him, not only as a basketball player, but as a young man, and I've enjoyed that time with him. So his future is with the Kings right now.
Hey, good morning, Scott. This is the third year in a row, first under your front office, that the Kings have found an undrafted player and elevated them to a full-time roster spot. With the strain of the CBA, with the strain of the salaries that are on the books, how important is it with the back end of finding those guys and developing them? And can you speak to the process that's gone on between you and Stockton and the front offices working together to come out with these positive players?
Yeah. Obviously, I can't comment on what preceded me. I recognize that, and that's a tremendous job. But I think it's extremely important where we are today because, as you mentioned, and the best way to improve your team is usually through the draft. But when you draft young players, it takes time to develop them. Drafting them is one thing, developing them is another. And in Dylan's case, he goes through, and he's not one of the 60 guys picked. Kudos to our scouting staff. We quickly pivoted to him. I think we were the only team that offered him a two-way. Everybody else was talking about Exhibit 10s for him. And so we saw something in him. Now, when he came in, he bought in. He's continued to work extremely hard. His time with Stockton was excellent. You know, kudos to Gabe Harris, who's the GM of our Stockton Kings, Will Scott, the head coach, Jason Maxill, who's an assistant coach, a former big man that I drafted years ago in Detroit. So there's a mission to what we want our big men to look like. And so we want him to be tough, physical, and Jason has done a great job with him in terms of the mental aspect of that with him. There's been a lot of drilling going on with him to improve his free throw shooting. You know, he's got a long way to go as an offensive player, but that's okay. I worked with a guy for years in Detroit who never was considered, quote unquote, a great offensive player, but he was impactful offensively because you had to block him out, and that was Ben Wallace every time. But he was elite rebounder, led the league in rebounding, and one of the best shot blockers, and his toughness and his energy permeated the roster, the more talented guys. And so Dylan, I'm not sitting here saying that Dylan is Ben Wallace today, but he's doing some of the things that you like to see from a great defensive big. He's just starting, he's just scratching the surface. So now it's incumbent upon both us and him to keep getting better and not just feel good that he just signed his contract yesterday to become a full-time NBA player. Now what do you take it from here? How great do you want to become? And sometimes that's can be a great fortune for a team in the front office when you can get a guy who was undrafted. You know, like I said, I use the example because I lived with him so long when Ben Wallace was an undrafted player. And we had a couple on that team that we ultimately won the championship with. So just because a guy's not drafted doesn't mean he can't make it, but you got to get the right person, mindset, and then you got to do your job as an organization in pouring into them and developing not only their skills, but again, their mindset and approach to becoming the best NBA player they can become.
Hi, Scott. How are you today?
Hey, how you doing, Jason?
I have a couple questions for you as well. Talking about patience, this is a city that's been asked many, many times every year over the years to be patient. Mm-hmm. What do you say, to fans, to really the organization about the importance of that, how you achieve it, and really maybe most importantly, how do you achieve that in an organization where patience and prudence has been lacking at times?
Well, I think if they take a step back and look around the league at some of the teams now that maybe are at the top of the league or consistently competing to win championships, that very few, I don't know of any what I call overnight successes that somebody comes in here and in 9 months, all of a sudden they're a championship team. You're talking years of drafting, developing, trading, guys working, not working. There's a lot of moving parts. So, and I understand the frustration of the fan base. Again, we're in a society, people want things now. You want to win. But what I would submit is that what we're doing, again, is we're not going to just chase shiny objects for the sake of doing it or make deals for the sake of it to say, to try to stay in the middle. This process that takes a little longer with the drafting and developing is the more solid foundation, in my opinion. It's not, we're not trying to become a team that's hanging in the playing realm every year, because that comes frustrating too. You get a lot of people in that internet with that middle area, and you've heard this a lot in sports. That's probably the worst place to be when you're just stuck in the middle because you have no way of ascending, and you have a quicker way of falling back too. And so that lends a lot of frustration, in my opinion. So we're going to do this the right way, because once we get there, then I want this fan base to be able to enjoy a sustained presence, maybe in the playoff basketball, versus, okay, let's get here one time, everybody cheer for the 1 year, and then you're gone again.
Okay, and the other side of that question was, not just the fans, but within the organization, how do you achieve that, and from top to bottom, and then along those lines, like, how does it kind of impact the way you look at Doug's job, for instance, in terms of what he's doing and how you build this roster over time?
Well, internally, when I took this job, that was the big discussion point for me, is that everybody would have to buckle up and be willing to row in the same direction, stay in the boat together, go through the difficult times. And so that's why I'm here, because there's an alignment from ownership to all other key stakeholders in the organization. So I'm comfortable with that. They get it. They understand it. Look, the competitor in us all would like to walk out from the arena every night and into the locker room with a win, but that's not happening right now. We got to, and so that's where that is at. And the second part of your question was about Doug? Oh. Well, look, I've said many times, this is Doug's first year as a coach. I really enjoyed working with him, his energy, his passion, not only for the game and to get better as a coach, but he has a passion for this community, as you know. I mean, he was a star player on this team years ago and extremely invested in the community. Now, with that, but knowing him being the first, there's a lot of learning that goes into that, and I think he'd be the first to tell you he's right in the midst of a learning curve and being a head coach, and that's not just coaching the game, that's managing the staff, that's working with front office, that's all those things. So, but he's approached it with the appropriate mindset or demeanor, I would say. And so, but nobody wants to win more games than him. And I hope he wins as many games as he can this year. I really do. I know people will say, oh, well, it might affect your draft status or whatever the case may be. But I'm a believer when you get to the lottery, there's luck involved, as we all know. And it's, depending upon where your percentages lie. And just hopefully, when we get there this year, we'll get some good fortune.
Scott, you've been doing this for a long time, so you know how the rumor mill works and everything. Over the past 6-7 weeks, maybe even before that, one name that consistently was linked to you, both here locally and nationally, was Jonathan Kuminga. Obviously, a deal didn't get done, but was there much substance to those rumors? And if so, do you feel you were close to getting it done?
Well, one thing I don't want to do is talk about a player now that's on another roster that didn't get traded for. So other than just say we obviously had interest in the player this summer, and I'm going to have to leave it at that now because I don't want to get into the minutia of different conversations with different organizations, because you guys have to remember, I got to be back here in a few months dealing with all these teams again in terms of whether it's trades to be made and things of that nature. And it's important for all of my peers to know and understand that conversations like that are kept private, because if not, then I won't be able to do my job moving forward, and they won't want to do their jobs with me because they're worried about Scott's going to get up there and tell it all. So no, but I just acknowledged from the summertime, obviously there was some interest.
Scott, you just talked about Doug a little bit, but there was a report from ESPN last month about his job being safe. And are you expecting him to be your coach going into next season too?
I'm expecting to be my coach till I tell you anything different. So, so I'm not even thinking along those lines right now. I want to see us get incrementally better each day, our young players, and I want to see him continue to improve as a coach. But I'm not here to talk anymore about Doug's plight, other than behind him, and I expect him to continue to grow and improve and be the coach here for the Kings.
Just what's your viewpoint on Zach LaVine and his status with the organization, and what would you like to see from him going forward?
Zach's a pro. I've enjoyed getting a chance to know him. Obviously he's a guy that's a very capable scorer in this league, and he's done it for a long time. So, like anybody else, we'll continue to evaluate him and his presence here with the organization. But in terms of just his daily professionalism and wanting to help the team win, he's checked that box, but we just haven't won enough. And I think he would tell you the same thing. He's disappointed in that, as we all are.
Talked a lot coming into the year about the importance of building an identity. Where do you feel like, obviously the season hasn't gone the way you expected, as you mentioned, but where do you feel like you're at in that process, and what are the continued steps from this point?
Quite frankly, not complete, for sure. It's definitely not complete. It's inconsistent at best. That's probably the nicest way I can put it from where I sit. We've shown signs of the type of defensive team I'd like us to be, and competing in other times we haven't shown it at all. Offensively, we've shown signs of, again, you hear me talk about team-oriented and sharing the ball when the ball's really moving and we're playing with good pace and sharing the game, but then at times they were not. So that's still a work in progress. It is my hope that after these last 30 games, that we could be further along in that process as we exit this year and enter into next season.
And rotationally, we've seen Doug lean towards playing the young guys a little bit more recently. He said something that you're in alignment with. How much are you encouraging that, and something we could expect moving forward?
I think it's very important. Again, when you talk about where we're at now today, I think it would be a little remiss of us as an organization if we don't develop the young guys at this stage of the year. We're not in playoff contention. Now, I expect our veteran players and players that play a lot of minutes to be ready to play and compete with the level of professionalism that we require. But they've been around the league long enough too to understand it's important for us to grow these guys, because these guys are going to be an important part of the foundation that we are establishing here as we move forward. So I want to see Nick Clifford, Maxime Renault, and Dylan Cardwell. And then, Keegan Murray's been in the league a couple of years, but he's in that young bucket when he comes back, to see how they can start to grow together. Devin Carter, who hasn't played much, give him an opportunity to showcase and see if he's someone that's, going to move forward with us as well. So I think most organizations in this situation that have aspired again to build that culture and that sustainable winning, you'll see that kind of pivot.
Scott, you mentioned that this is the last stretch in the NBA season. I mean, how do you guys balance putting, a competitive team in this last stretch if you guys are considering looking forward in the 2027, 2028 season? What are you guys defining yourselves right now in this last stretch of the NBA season?
Oh, we always want to compete, and I think you short sell the young guys just when people say you're going to play young guys more, that you're not going to be competitive. In some ways, they're going to bring more energy on a team that's not winning, maybe more so than even your established guys. So, no, we want to compete, and I want to win as many games as we can, because I think it's important for the mental health of the organization and for the locker room that the guys can play 48 minutes and come in that locker room with some wins and not all losses. That's important as you build. I've never subscribed to, and we're not doing this, so let's be clear on that, to what I would call institutionalizing losing. No. That's not in our vocabulary, tanking, institutional. You're not going to see a team that's going to go out here these final 30 games and say, we're trying to lose. Absolutely not. Because, again, the lottery system itself, look, the team that won it last year had the 11th best odds, Dallas. They weren't trying to lose last year, and they won it. And I think in the last 20, 25 years, 3-4 times the team with the worst record won the lottery? So there's no guarantee. It's not like football. If you had a worse record, you're going to get the number one pick. So, no, we want to compete. This, again, to Brendan's point about establishing the identity and culture, competitive and tough is part of that. So we would never suggest that to the guys in the locker room that we don't want to compete, we don't want to win. No, that's not in our purview.
Scott, we're past the deadline now. Is this the group of veterans on this team? Do you think they're going to finish the season, or are you going to look at the buyout market and see if maybe you have one or two of these guys go away?
No, I expect the veterans to be here with us through the conclusion of the season. I expect them to play to the best of their ability when called upon. And I expect them to mentor to the best of their ability when they're not in the game. And so, no, I expect them all to be here.